In this episode, we'll look at irreversible change. Hi boys and girls, at the end of today's lesson, you will be able to define the term irreversible change, give 3 examples of irreversible change, carry out fear tests to demonstrate irreversible change, and complete at least 4 of the 8 activities at the learning centers. Based on the fear tests conducted in the previous lesson, you would have observed the physical changes and concluded that these changes can be undone. That is, they are not permanent. On the other hand, there are some tests that can be done which will give another result. Let's look at the scenario below. Mr. Brown burned some wood in the forest. Andre, his 8-year-old son, observed that the burnt wood changed to ashes and asked his father about the change. In response, Mr. Brown told Andre that the change from wood to ash is an irreversible change because new material is formed. He further told Andre that there are other irreversible changes, to include mixing, heating, cooking, baking, frying, and roasting. Finally, Mr. Brown told Andre that irreversible change is also called chemical change. This is based on the fact that irreversible change, 1. sees a new material that is completely different from the original material. 2. starts with one material and changes to one or more new ones. 3. has some materials that are useful to us. Engage. Discuss the changes that take place when heat is added to a raw egg. Now, let's think about this egg. Liquid, After we heat this egg, it then goes on to become, if we boil it, add heat to it by a boiling, we can get a hard-boiled egg. Or if we add heat to it by frying, we could, get a scrambled egg, or some other version of an omelette or something like that. The property of the egg moves from being liquid to solid. Okay? Is there anything that I could do to the egg to get it back to its previous state? No. Let's look at the explorer. This fear test was done in the presence of an adult. Here are the materials needed: an egg, a bowl, a frying pan, and stove. Here's the method. Crack an egg and pour it into a bowl. Observe the egg. Fry the egg and then observe the changes. Record your observation. Did any new material form? Still an egg, but totally in a different form. Okay? Now, explain. Define the term irreversible change and give 2 examples of irreversible change. So we know based on what we read before that the irreversible change, we can't go back to what it was before. Something new is produced as well. All right. Examples, I can think of the egg. Let's think of something involving egg as well. Get some flour, egg, sugar, maybe some carrot or something like that, some chocolate or something, and I, whisk, whip, use a mixer, and I put all of that together, put it in a pan, put it in the oven, and I heat that, and at the end I get a cake of some sort, be it a carrot cake, a chocolate cake, or something. No, I can't just go and pull the flour back out of it, right? So again, we have something that has been formed, and I cannot get the original things back from it as they were before. Extend. Carry out the following activity to find out if it represents an irreversible change. Now, these are the materials that we can use: cement, sand, water, a bowl, and 3 similar plastic disposable cups. Here's the method. That's how we're going to do it. 1. Measure separately in 3 similar cups sand, cement, and water. Observe each material in the 3 containers. Then, place all 3 materials in a bowl. Then you use a stick to mix them together until they form a mortar or paste. Place the container with the mixture in a sunny area for a day. Then you observe the change. Try to take out the sand from the mortar. Try to take out the cement from the mortar. Question: were you successful in separating the materials in the mixture? No, because what we are forming now would be concrete. Evaluate. Complete at least 4 of the activities at the learning centers. We start with the word link at the Faye Ellington Center. Make a booklet on irreversible change. Include the following: the definition for irreversible change and 2 examples of irreversible change. Also, 3, a fear test that depicts irreversible change. Now we go to the self-link at the Dr. Agri Irons Center. Make a journal entry expressing your reaction to the activities done. So for example, at item 3 here, we could talk about baking. We could talk about making the mortar for the cement, right? Or we could talk about frying an egg, right? So you could have that there, and then in your journal you could talk about that. Music link at the Jimmy Cliff Center. Write song lyrics depicting irreversible change. Picture link at the Edna Manley Center. Draw a diagram of one of the activities done in this week's lesson. Body link at the Rex Nettleford Center. Carry out the following activities and find out if you will get an irreversible change. The materials are vinegar, bicarbonate of soda or baking soda. We need a teaspoon of that. And the method: measure 1 teaspoon of baking soda. 2. Place it in a cup. 3. Measure 1 teaspoon of vinegar. 4. Place it in the baking soda and then observe the change. Here are some questions. Were you able to observe the change from vinegar and baking soda to bubbles and water? And change the bubbles and liquid mixture to vinegar and baking soda? So can we do that in the other direction? Can we get those bubbles and the water that is formed there, can we get that back into the baking soda and the vinegar? You know. Social link from the Mary C. Cole Center. So use a digital device to capture an image of at least 2 of the activities done in this week's lesson. Label each image Irreversible Change and then send the images to a classmate via WhatsApp. Number link at the Albert Einstein Center. Find the activities on table 1 that depict reversible or irreversible change. An example is done for you already. And here is our table. We have activities, whether it is reversible or it is irreversible. So the one that they did was baking a cake. Is it reversible? No. Therefore, it is yes, irreversible. What about a melted candle, burning paper, an old rusted iron? Let us be careful if we're going to try this for ourselves, because rusty materials, you know, if we get cut by them, we could have to go to the doctor to get a tetanus injection. So let's be very careful, you know, in trying that one. Frying eggs. Here are some questions. Use the information of table 1 to answer question 1 and 2. what percentage of the activities and object is reversible, and then what percentage is irreversible. Finally, the nature link at the Dan Macaulay Center: observe the cutting of grass and indicate whether this is a reversible or irreversible change. In this episode, we looked at irreversible change. We were able to define irreversible change and some of the ways in which irreversible changes can be obtained, for example, through mixing, heating, cooking, baking, frying, and roasting. So, 1, we can see that a new material is formed and it is completely different from the original material. Okay, so those are some of the things that we need to bear in mind when we think of irreversible change. Take care, and I'll see you in our next episode.